Welcome to Life, Lessons, and Laughter with your host, Glenn Ambrose.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Life Lessons and Laughter with yours truly. So here we go. We're going to talk about finding your safe space today. So, this is important, man. This is foundational stuff. A lot of times I'll talk about getting back to basics and going deeper. And this is along those same lines because we tend to overcomplicate things, overthink things, and seek outside of ourselves for solutions and treat symptoms instead of the core issues. And, it's all that type of stuff that gets confusing and pulls us off center. So that's why I talk a lot about this type of stuff. It's that foundation, that simple, basic foundation way down at the core it's everything. If we don't have that, everything that we're building and doing and implementing and trying above that is, I don't want to say it's useless, but it's close to useless. It's just, it appeases us temporarily. It's a pat on the back. It's a temporary fix at best. It just doesn't, it's not lasting, and it doesn't change our lives, and it doesn't create a sustainable foundation for our future and how we're living. And that's the most important thing. If you've got that foundation, anything that you do off of that solid foundation is going to be 100 times more profound and effective, because it's the foundation that matters. So, way down at the foundation is really finding your safe space. It's feeling safe. We can use different words to describe it. We can say we're anchored into the essence of love. We can say we are supported and loved by something bigger than us. All those deep, foundational, broad statements that can really be powerful, they boil down to feeling safe. It's just another way to say the same thing. Feeling loved and feeling supported is feeling safe. So that's the struggle with spirituality, is that the words are just signposts pointing towards something. They're not it. So you can't ever accurately describe what it is, because it's bigger than words. It transcends mere words. So this is why there's a lot of overlap when you get deeper. You can use different words to explain the same thing. So it's different doorways to come into the same thing. So if you want to feel safe, supported, loved, cared for, protected, connected to source, anything like that, it's all the same thing. It's all the same thing. So, I'll in this podcast, I'll try to use the wording around safety a little bit more, because how can you feel loved if you don't feel safe? How can you feel supported if you don't feel safe? Again, this is an innate desire within us. We all want to feel safe. We all seek safety because we can relax when we feel safe. We can allow our natural loving personality and behaviors to come out when we feel safe. Think about it and it's the same in a macrocosm as it is in the microcosm. So I'm talking about the macrocosm here. I'm talking about safety derived from the eternal, but it applies to the same thing in relationships. If you don't feel safe and with somebody, then you can't open up to be yourself. This is why safety is such a foundational aspect. We need to feel safe. Otherwise, we're defensive. We're protecting ourselves. We're on edge. We're looking. We're cautious. We can't relax and just be open and be ourselves, because we're constantly trying to, watch out to try to protect ourselves, to keep ourselves safe. So if we feel safe, then we can relax and just be ourselves. So it's such a foundational piece, and it is innate within us. Like, everybody wants to feel safe. So to me, whenever I come across something like that, like, where everybody wants to feel safe, everybody wants to feel loved, everybody wants to be happy, everybody desires connection with others. Like, if you come across something that everybody experiences, when you go underneath all the surfacey defense mechanisms and all our surfacey judgments and all that stuff, when you get way down underneath all that stuff and you see where all humans are the same, then that's innate. And to me, anything that's innate is God-given. It was the way that the divine intelligence, or whatever created us, made us. It's like we didn't develop it. So I think I'm trying to pick an example of something that was more developed. So, we have different aspects within us, right? We all have anger inside of us. We all have frustration inside of us. But to me, those aren't foundational. Those are temporary tools that are appropriate in specific situations. So are they innate? Technically, yes, they are, because we all have them in us, but they're not innate foundational ways of being that if we latch onto them, we experience the peace, contentment, and joy of being one with our true selves. Like, it's those aren't pleasant things, those are temporary tools that sometimes we need to implement. And sometimes, when they, like an example of a learned behavior, I think is greed. This idea of more. It's like, there's a striving for us to be more of ourselves, but when it becomes a way of life and an illusion of fulfillment, that's where it gets off. We're never going to be fulfilled, no matter how much more we achieve or we get. The fulfillment comes with just feeling safe, going back to that safe space, feeling connected, love. Like, I'm fulfilled. I don't need anything outside of me to fulfill me. I'm enough as I am. So the fulfillment doesn't come from external things. So that desire for more, the greed is I think something that is a learned behavior. Think about where it started, and who knows, I'll theorize here. But it started when somebody decided that they were going to go outside the societal structures 100,000 years ago. Let's say the best hunter decided to start hoarding their food and to make other people give them what they wanted, and they would give them the food. Oh, okay. Well, now I have a better life than other people, so it seems. So then, that expands. More people start doing it, and more people start doing it, and then countries start doing it, and then power seems like you get what you want, but it's all temporary and it's all fleeting. There's no substance to it. So, back to feeling safe. Like, if this is innate within us, then it must have a purpose. It's, why did nature or divine wisdom or intelligence or the universe or God create us with this desire to feel safe? It must be pretty important if we all have it and it's so foundational. And we can never experience true peace and love on the deepest levels without it. So whatever is smarter than me that created us all, there must be a purpose. That there must be a reason for that. And it must be a pretty profound reason, because it's a pretty profound thing. So, it's one way. Nature doesn't do things for no reason. So why do we have this yearning, this need to feel safe? Especially when you consider that we were put on a spinning rock in the middle of space where everything constantly changes. Constantly. Like, nothing ever stays the same. We're all going to be dust someday. That our cars are going to be dust someday. Mountains are different. Oceans, everything changes on this planet. Nothing ever stays the same, which is generally the opposite of safety. How can you feel safe if you never know what's going to happen next? Everything's constantly changing. Like, this is where there's so many different ways to phrase this. This is one of the problems, I think, in more developed societies, because there's more of an illusion of safety through our ability to control things like nature and people. When we have an illusion that we are in control, it gives us the illusion of safety. And so this is one of the biggest things that everybody is running around trying to do. Everybody is trying to control outcomes. Everybody is trying to control their lives. Everybody is trying to create scenarios where they know what to expect next. Why? So they can feel safe. But they can never do it. We can never do it. Like, you can make billions of dollars, right? And then somebody could come up and shoot you the next day. And did the billions of dollars save you? No. You could spend your billions of dollars setting up amazing security. And could one of your security guards flip on you? Yes, they could. You could make billions of dollars, and could somebody sue you and lose it all? Yes, theoretically, that's possible. Right? Like, there's, I'm using money because that's kind of how the surfacey external world gives the illusion of control in most situations. So, of course, there's illusions of control in other ways. It's, we've seen it throughout history. Like, throughout history, it's like, I'm going to have the biggest, baddest army in the world. And then they do. for a while, and they conquer a bunch of nations, and they just keep getting bigger and bigger. And they're like, see, like now I'm the most powerful. And then somebody comes along that's bigger and badder, or they're just so focused on power, they're not taking care of people underneath because they're addicted to that control and that power. And then the people underneath rebel against them, and the society falls. It's just, it doesn't work, is my point. It's an illusion. Control is an illusion. We never know what's going to happen. So why do we have this need for safety if we live in an experiential reality where everything always changes? And it's so foundational. Like, why? That another thing, I was kind of thinking about this, like every once in a while in my travels, I see how, people try to prove that there's no God, or they express the other perspective. And I like to try to stay open to it, because to me, it's not threatening. Like, I don't mind that people think that there isn't a God, even though I think that there is. That doesn't bother me, because to me, quite honestly, I think most people do. They're just a little bit scared of the term God, or they don't like the term. Heck, I didn't like it. Once I woke up spiritually, I didn't use the term God for at least like 4 years, because I just wasn't comfortable with the unconscious idea of a God that I was taught growing up Catholic. To me, it was all fire and brimstone. I'm not saying that that's all the Catholic teaching. I understand that there's Catholic teachings that are actually very helpful, but the way I perceived it as a child, and how I grew up and what I was exposed to, is it was a very negative experience. For the most part, it was a very negative experience. So, and God was part of that terminology. So I needed to work through my resentments towards the Catholic Church, towards what I was exposed to, before I could use that word without getting triggered. So now I can use that word. But so I think most people believe in, to me, if you believe in anything like a universal, the universe, that it has some sort of intelligence to it that keeps planets a certain distance from the sun and stuff, or you believe in a God but use a different name, or you believe in energy, you believe that everything is energy. To me, that's all the same thing. Like, I don't care what the definition is. If there's something out there that's bigger and smarter than us, that's kind of designing things or has some sort of intelligence to it, then that to me is God. So I'm not hung up on a particular definition. You know what I mean? So I think most people believe in something like that. So to me, they believe in God. And then there are some people that don't, no matter what terminology they use. And then there's other people that just don't. And that's okay too, because like, it does. How would somebody not believing in God impact me? Like, you have the right. We all have free will. I mean, everybody has the right to believe what they want to believe. So I never understood that. Like, why does somebody else's belief have to be the same as my belief for me to be okay? That's so disempowering to me. So I don't mind when people have different. Now, I mean, I'm very opinionated, so sometimes I'll go back and forth with people and argue my point or whatever. But I mean, at the end of the day, I don't really actually care. Because whatever transpires in my life is my responsibility, and it comes from how I choose to live and what I choose to do. What somebody else believes has no impact on that. So it doesn't matter to me. It's just therefore, since it doesn't matter, I feel I can keep my mind somewhat open, at least open enough to try to understand what they're saying, right? So I've heard many times, what was it? I jotted some notes here. Oh, that people believe in God to make themselves feel comfortable, right? Like it's this made up thing. So because people don't feel safe and they want to feel safe, so they just make up this idea of God so that they can feel safe and warm and fuzzy in the inside, right? Like I've heard that argument many different times in many different scenarios. And to me, it didn't resonate, right? I'm just like, nah, I don't think that that's true. There's too much to it for it to be just some made up thing that, whatever. And then I was, I came across it, and it's actually what sparked this podcast, although it's probably not going to be a gigantic part of this podcast. It's what sparked it. So I started thinking about that, and I was like, okay, so let's follow this all the way through, like I enjoy doing when I'm contemplating things. So if somebody says humans believe in God to make themselves feel comfortable, well, my next question is, why is believing in God necessary to feel comfortable? Oh, people just make that up to feel safe. Oh, okay. Hypothetically, let's dissect that. Let's look into that. So people make up a God, something more powerful than themselves, to make themselves feel safe. And I think it's, like I said before, I think it's fair to say that everybody wants to feel safe. Everybody wants to feel safe. Okay. So everybody wants to feel safe. Well, why do we want to feel safe? Why is that a thing? Why weren't we just created without the need to feel safe? I don't know, but we weren't. We're created for the need with this innate desire to feel safe. Oh, okay. So if some sort of intelligence created a being and they said, we're going to include this desire to feel safe as a foundational aspect of what I'm creating, and then I'm going to put them in a world where it's literally impossible for them to feel safe. That doesn't make any logical sense to me. What? And if it doesn't make any logical sense, I can't figure out why some divine intelligence would do it. Like, because divine intelligence is smarter than me. And if I can even see that it doesn't make sense, you think that divine intelligence or the universe, this thing that created galaxies and stars and suns and planets and all this stuff going on, it was too stupid to figure this out, that you shouldn't make a bunch of species with an innate desire to feel safe and then put them in a world where they can't feel safe because everything constantly changes. That's foolishness. That's stupidity. That just doesn't make any sense. So if I can figure out that it doesn't make sense, I'm guessing that whatever created me is smarter than me. So therefore, it would know that it doesn't make sense, and it probably wouldn't have done it. So to me, it just doesn't make logical sense that that's the truth, because to me, whenever I find what I believe to be the truth, it's never stupid. The truth never is absence of making sense. the truth always makes sense once you stumble across it. You go, oh my goodness, wow. And I mean, assuming you have the capability to understand it and absorb it conceptually at the time, right? Sometimes we stumble across the truth and it just doesn't make sense to us because we're not ready. But once we do, once we're capable of it, it makes sense. We're like, oh yeah. So, I mean, I've been, hey, this is all theoretical. Maybe I'm too stupid to understand the reason why something smarter than me would make a creation, make it want to feel safe, and then not give it the ability to feel safe. Yeah. So anyway, so therefore, I'm concluding that if, to me, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. Okay. So there is a soul to us. There is a spiritual center to us. There is an eternal nature to each of us. This is just what makes sense to me. So, and I'm having a human experience. So I'm here on earth temporarily. Now, if I have this innate desire to feel safe and I can't feel safe here on earth because everything's always changing, then is there some other place that I could look where I might be able to find safety? And there's only one other place, because there's only two aspects of us. There's the spiritual aspect, which is eternal, and then there's the human aspect, which is temporal. So those are my only two options. So if I can't find safety in the temporal realm, maybe I can find safety in the eternal realm, right? And I go, okay, well, eternal, what does that mean? Well, it's never changing. It's just going on forever. So it's eternal. It's always there. It always has been. It always will be. Ooh, that makes me feel safe. It's omnipresent. It's omnipowerful. Ooh, that makes me feel safe. So there is safety in a spiritual aspect of us. It's just not in a temporal aspect of us. So to me, what that means is that our foundation is spiritual. That's where we derive our safety. And, subsequently, that's also where we derive our love, our support, our energy, our power, our everything. So to me, it's the source of everything, and it flows into this temporal realm through us. So I go, oh, okay. That's where my safety is. So if I anchor into the safety of the eternal, of my God, or the divine intelligence of the universe, or whatever else you want to call it, and I anchor into the safety of that, then I can come and interact with life without all the fear, without all the defensiveness, without all the looking over my shoulder, without trying to control a bunch of things that I can't control. And then I can feel safe. With that as my foundation, then I can stay calm. I can think clearly. I can be myself because I'm safe. I can interact in life in whatever way I want. And I think, with the political climate and everything going on in the world right now, I think it's an important aspect of what we must do. It's just, like my feed in social media has been, primarily people that resonate with my type of thinking, because I've been using it for my business for the last 12 years. So yeah, and I'm shocked at just in, I guess 2025, my new favorite thing is to stop seeing posts but remain friends with people, because they're just constantly just putting things out there, either pro it's, right now it's in the governmental, and I'm trying to watch my words, so some of the platforms don't actually ban me, which has been a big threat lately. just for speaking about what's transpiring in the world. It's a censorship that's gone mad. I'll still express what I want to say, but I have to try to say it in a way that doesn't offend the censorship people, so you guys can still hear my message. I won't change my message. I don't care if they ban me or not. But I will try to phrase it in ways that don't trigger their AI censorship models. So people are either pro what's going on in the political climate or against what's going on in the political climate, and they're both out of their minds, in my opinion, because it's like the ones that are pro, it doesn't matter what is transpiring. They're saying, isn't this the most amazing thing that's ever happened in the world? This is wonderful. And then the people who are against what's happening, and I'm saying generally, kind of like against a particular person, perhaps, and that when they're against it, it doesn't matter what's said. Like, I just saw a post today where somebody was standing there, and the fact that they were standing there was gigantic controversy. Oh my God, there's a person standing there. This means that we've completely lost control of everything that's transpiring in the world because there's a human standing there. And it's like, oh my God. Like, and people are sharing this like it means something. It's mind-boggling to me. Well, it's not mind-boggling. I understand why it's happening, and it's one of the reasons why I'm doing this podcast. It's just like we're assigning this gigantic meaning to absolutely anything, and if somebody says it with a little bit of passion in their voice that this means something, then everybody that wants it to mean that hops on board and goes, yes, now everybody will see. Now everybody knows the truth. And I'm sitting there going, it literally doesn't mean anything. Like, what are you doing? What are you talking about? And then the people that don't want it to mean anything are going, how could it possibly mean that? And there's this big argument going on, and it's just like, oh my God, please, let's find some safety. This is like, we're getting knocked around. And you know what? Tomorrow it's going to be something else. Tomorrow, and then a day after, and a day after, and a day after, it's going to be something else. At some point, you have to get sick of getting knocked around by what other people say. Who cares? They're not going to save you. There isn't anybody in the political climate that is going to save your life or create a life where you feel safe. It's not going to happen, because even if they wanted to, which they don't, because they're too busy making a ton of money and experiencing a ton of power by not doing it, so they ain't gonna. But even if you found somebody that was interested in doing it and tried to, somebody would knock them off, or it's just, they're not capable of doing it. Why? Because we live in a reality where there is no control. There isn't a political person that can control how your life unfolds. There isn't one. It's time for us to take responsibility for our lives and stop looking at our oppressors like they're going to come turn around and save us at some point. They're not going to. It behooves them not to. They literally benefit if they strip your power and money from you. They literally benefit from that. and always have. And it's constantly getting worse. And you think that those are the people that are going to come save you and give you some sense of safety in your life. And they're not. And you're too busy arguing and picking sides to figure out that they're not going to save you, because you're concerned if a bill passes that tells you you have the right to think a particular way. Let me give you a little news flash. You have the right to think however you want to write. They don't think. They don't have to give that to you. They can't give it to you. What you want them to give to you, they can't give you. They can't give you a sense of safety. They can't give you a sense of peace. They can't give you a happy life. They can't give you a contented existence. They don't have the power. So stop getting knocked around by all this crap that they're feeding you. At some point, you just got to get sick and tired of being sick and tired. Like at some point, you have to get sick of just being knocked around emotionally by what they're saying and just stop following it. It doesn't matter. And you know that topic that just popped into your head, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because if you want to think a particular way or live a particular way, go find a way to think and live that way. Period. You go do it. Go do it. Nobody's stopping you. Nobody's got a gun to your head. Nobody says you need to sit down and abide by a bunch of rules and laws and all this BS that you don't believe in. Nobody's making you except you. If you can't do it in your country, move to another country. Oh, I can't. Yeah, you can. I mean, to be honest with you, you can do it in your country. You don't have to move. Like you can do it however you can live your life however you want. And it doesn't matter. The only thing that makes it seem like it matters is because we're concerned about what everybody else is thinking. Like, oh my God, the president doesn't want me to be diverse, so therefore I can't be diverse. Huh? Do you understand how foolish that sounds? Go live your life however you want. And you know what? When people look at you and go, I disagree, you go, you have the right to disagree. People don't have to agree with you for you to live your life the way that you want. They don't have to. It's an illusion. So I got caught up in the surfacey stuff again. You know, it's, oh man, I see so many people, so many really good, loving, wonderful people suffering so much. And honestly, it hurts my heart. That's why I go off on these little tangents. You know I do them too much, in my opinion. And I try to pull back. But I just love you guys so much that it, like, I you know, like those of us that have kids understand, and those of you who don't have kids understand in other ways. But it's a good example. You know, when your kid's just doing something that like you as an adult have different experiences because you've been on the planet longer, and your kid's doing something and you know that they're going to suffer because of it, and you try to tell them and you try to explain to them, and they just got to go experience it for themselves, and you just want to shake them and just go, wake up, listen to me, trust me, I love you. That's how it feels sometimes. That's why I go off on these tangents, because it's like I see so many people struggling and suffering with what's transpiring in the world, and it's just unnecessary. It's just not. You don't need to. It's all an illusion. You can live your life however you want to. So, which brings us right back to what, you know, the topic of this is how. Well, Glenn, how then? I get knocked around by this stuff that's transpiring in the world. How do I not let it bother me? By feeling safe. If you felt safe, then this stuff wouldn't bother you. Why? Because you felt safe. That's why. You're safe. You're protected. Oh, this bad person's going to say or do something. Go away from me somewhere. But they seem powerful. So go to your safety. Like this is how I got to this, as far as how I look at the world. Years ago, when all this stuff really started picking up, I needed to find a way, because I am a passionate person and I am opinionated. So I had to find a way to deal with reality, a healthy way to perceive things where I wasn't going to get dragged down an emotional hallway and get lost somewhere where I was out of my mind, because I care a lot. So I needed to find a healthy perspective, and I used this to do it. And I used it. I didn't find it when the political stuff, I found it many years ago, but when the political stuff arose, I had to reassign it to that that topic. I had used it for other topics before. Now I had to reassign it to a global topic. Same concept, because it's a foundational concept. So you can do that. Applies to lots of different things. So one of the ways I first found it was, going to court to get custody of my son after 10 years of difficult scenarios in family court. And I had all this fear. And so I was like, okay, where's my fear coming from? Well, it's coming from my experiences in family court, specifically Rhode Island, and my experiences with my ex-wife. And I was like, okay, so if I'm looking at those two entities for being in control of how I feel, then I'm going to feel fearful. Yes, because I don't trust either one of them. Okay. Why? Because they've proven to me through their actions to be untrustworthy. Okay. So as long as my trust is in that, as long as those two entities are designing how I interact with life, how I interact with life is going to be filled with fear. So I was like, okay, well, do they determine what happens in my life? It's like, on a surfacey level, the first thought is like, yeah, kinda. But then I had to think bigger, take a step back to gain perspective. And I was like, well, no, God does. God determines what happens. Like, if I give my life over to the care of God, then I am trusting that God is going to take care of my life, and it's going to be the best thing for me, no matter what it looks like. Even if I lose in court to get custody of my son, I have to understand that that must be God's purpose. If I hand my will and my power over to God, then it's got to be God's purpose, and there must be a purpose in it. And I need to learn to live and grow through that, even though I don't think I want that to happen. And I had to really do a lot of deep work to get to that place. Of course, I'm going to be happy if I get custody, because that's what I think looks good. But I have to be okay even if I don't. That's really handing your will over. Right. So I got to that place and it worked. And, the Rhode Island court system, which is, from the research I did, is notoriously slanted, one of the more slanted states in the country for siding with the mother in custody cases. And I had zero custody, plenty of visitation for the last 10 years that I had accrued over lots of family court, but no actual custodial rights, no decision-making abilities, nothing like that. So first day, they took my son out of his mother's house after 12 years and put him in my house. Are you kidding me? That never happens. But this is what happened when I turn my will over and I put my faith into God instead of the court system and my ex. So it's the same thing that I'm doing now. I'm going, is somebody elected to some office in a particular country? Does that decide how my life is going to go? Well, kind of in some ways, seemingly. Okay, then take a step back. Can I take a step back and gain perspective? Is this person more powerful than God? Well, no. Oh, okay. So why don't I take all that fear that I'm experiencing, because what's really happening is I'm putting my faith in the governmental system. That's why I'm experiencing fear, because I don't trust the governmental system. Oh, okay. Well, then I can't, as long as I'm doing that, I can't feel safe. I cannot. It's literally impossible. If I put my faith in anything that is of this world, which is a transitory world, everything always changing, I can never feel safe, including the government. So if I take that faith back that I'm putting over there, that's inducing all this fear, just like the court system and my ex did in the previous scenario. And I go, okay, I'm going to take my faith back, and I'm not going to, because I unknowingly gave it to the wrong people. I'm going to take it back from the government, and I'm going to hand it over to where it belongs, to something all powerful, that's love-based, that's eternal, that I can actually derive safety from. Oh, okay. So now I can still have my opinions. I can still interact. I can still protest against things if I want. I can still talk about them if I want. I can still stand up for things. I can still support things that I believe in. I can do all that stuff, but it's with a non-attachment to an outcome, which is spiritual law. So I'm not I'm not deriving my sense of safety from a particular outcome. I can't do that if I'm putting my faith in God. I have to say, if I put my faith in God, I have to put my faith in God. I have to say, not I put my faith in God if everything looks the way that I want it to. No, I put my faith in God because I know that God loves me and keeps me safe. And no matter what it looks like, I walk by faith, not by sight. That's putting your faith in God. And that's foundational. You have to put your faith in if you're walking any type of spiritual path and you're not doing that, I guess that's why I get so flustered, because I see this so much with people that are really trying to live a spiritual life, and they're getting knocked all over the place with what's transpiring in the world. And it's like, you get back to the foundation. Find your safe space. That's in God. And anchor into that, and anchor into that. Turn off the news. All it's doing is drawing you. Stop scrolling on social media. All it's doing is drawing you. All we're doing is we're just in this facade of staying informed. Who cares? I haven't watched the news in over 20 years. You think I'm not informed? I know what's going on. It's everywhere. You can't not know what's going on to some degree. And what have you done? Like, anybody that watches the news and thinks that they need to stay informed, please message me and tell me anything that you've done to change the world in the last 20 years because you're informed. Something that I can't do because I'm not as informed as you are, because you think being informed is so important. So tell me one thing that you've done in the last 20 years that's impacted the world and the people within it and society in general, that you've done because you've been informed, that you wouldn't be able to do if you weren't informed or as informed. because we're going to be somewhat informed. Being informed is an illusion. It's a waste of time. It's like those people that run around saying that like intellect or reading is mandatory to live a good life. No, it's not. It's not. You don't have to read. Like, there were people that had very meaningful lives before there was the written word. It's about feeling and living. Can reading enhance your life in certain ways? Absolutely. A lot of times it can. But it doesn't mean it's going to. A lot of times it's just an escape. And the same thing with knowledge. Oh, knowledge is so... No, it's not. No, it's not. Like, I come to the same conclusions through wisdom that lots of people try to come to through knowledge, and they never get there. Because once they don't understand things, they think they need more knowledge. It's not. The real important stuff is conceptual, which is wisdom. It's understanding what you understand. Or understanding what you know in a healthy way where you can implement it. Knowledge is useless. You might be able to go on Jeopardy and win some money, but other than that, it's a waste. And I'm not saying that knowledge can't enhance your life. It can if it's used in a particular way. It's just people think that being informed and reading and knowledge is where it's at, and it ain't. Because none of that stuff's going to make you feel safe. This is why I love spirituality so much, because it's the deepest. Like, to me, it's, if I'm sitting there going like, oh, okay, like, hey, I want to, I want to I want to follow a band that I like. Oh, wow, okay. And then it's like, well, that's cool, but it's just music. Oh, well, I want to follow a sports team that I like. Oh, well, that's cool, but it's just sports. Oh, I want to follow a leader that I like. Well, that's cool, but it's just a leader. And so it's just, to me, it's just pockets. Like, I can't get overly immersed in any of them. I can enjoy them and like them, but they're not the end all be all. I like to go to the end all be all. So, like, God is it for me. Spirituality, how these dynamics interact in life, that's it. Because there's nothing deeper. I can't go, well, I understand the dynamics of life, but it's only life. It's kind of all I got. And the fact that it is incorporated with the eternal is even better. Like, that's why I like the eternal and bringing it into the temporal. Temporary is just temporary, man. Let's bring the eternal peace, love, safety into our temporal experience. That's our foundation. So if we sit there and use that for our foundation, that's our safe space. Anchor into that. And then all this other stuff's not going to knock you around like it has. And you can think clearer because you're not all emotional about it. Emotion is horrible for thinking. It's wonderful for love and other things, but it's horrible for thinking. So I've explained why many times. So getting all jacked up about stuff and pretending that it means that you're a good person doesn't mean you're a good person. It just means that you're out of control of your emotions and you can't think clearly, and you're getting led around by a particular group of people that want to lead you around. And that's why I see, all these loving spiritual people getting like all worked up about politics. And I'm like, what? One, you have no foundation. Two, like, you think you're just so focused that you don't like one person that you think anything opposite of that is goodness, which is, one, not true, and two, it just gives more power to the other side that's been manipulating you for the last 100 years too. But you so don't want one that you're willing to be manipulated by another. Like, that's emotional thinking. That doesn't make sense. Anybody that believes anybody in any area of our government is out of their mind, delusional. You do not have your feet on the ground. You are not thinking clearly if you think that this government is going to help your life, or the previous government is going to, or the next government is going to. You're out of your flipping mind. It's literally impossible for them to do so. And they've proven to you by their actions for the last 100 years that they are going to screw you over. They've had their time. They've proven it by their actions, and you're refusing to see it because you don't feel safe. You're hoping that if this is the obvious jerk, that the other people might not be jerks, and they are, because the system is flawed. Nobody's coming to save you. So go to the energy that is there to save you. Go to the love, go to the foundation, anchor yourself in the peace and the contentment and the joy that is our Creator. Anchor into that. Just stop everything. I dare you to stop everything for 1 week. Get literally uninstall any social media apps. You don't have to delete them. Delete your accounts. Just uninstall them so you can't get on them for 1 week, 5 days, 3 days, something. And don't watch any news, and don't get into any political discussions, and meditate every day and work on your connection to your source. Just do that for 1 week. 1 week. I guarantee you your entire life will change. Because you'll start, I don't know how, people will get to different levels, but once you disconnect from all that, the pull, it's got such a strong pull. It pulls me too. It's got such a strong pull. We have to disconnect from that pull for a few days and just focus on love and connection to God, to our source, and that sense of safety. And just do that for 1 week. And all that fear and worry that's been projected externally at everything that's transpiring in the world will start dissipating, and you'll start feeling the love and the safety of the divine, and you anchor into that. And then you can make your choice. But just try it. What do you got to lose? If it doesn't work in 1 week, we'll gladly refund your misery. You can hop back on everything, and you can go right back onto the television and the social media and start worrying again, and just drive yourself crazy if you want. You got free will. You can do whatever you want. So it's just 1 week. What's the risk? Don't get into any conversations with anybody either about any of the stuff that's going on in the world for 1 week. Don't worry. It'll be there when you come back. Probably a little bit worse. So hopefully I got my point across. It's the foundation for everything. We have to have this, peeps. We have to have this. We have to be anchored into this. Otherwise, we just don't have the ability to interact with life. And like I said, if once you're anchored into that, you can go back into topics that you care about, and you can show your support for those things that are important to you. I'm not saying that we have to abandon that stuff. If you have a particular issue that's important to you, after you've ground yourself in source and you feel safe, you're going to be able to think more clearly. You're going to be able to come up with better ideas. Your energy is going to be more love-based, so therefore it's going to be more powerful. You're going to make bigger progress in supporting whatever changes you would like to see in the world through that energy than you would all jacked up in fear. All right. So I hit my limit of time, so I got to fly. Thanks, everybody, for watching and listening, and I will talk with you later. Peace.